You're listening to Mortgage Lending Mastery. Get the knowledge you need to advance your mortgage practice quickly and efficiently from Jen Du Plessis, America's Mortgage Mastery mentor with over 37 years of experience and over $1 billion in lifetime fundings. Jen has been mentoring loan officers and realtors for over 15 years and speaking on stages across the globe. So settle in and get ready as Jen and her guests share their experience, passion, and strategies to help you crack the top producer code to reach new heights in your business. And now, here's your host, Jen Du Plessis, Mortgage Mastery Mentor and head chick in charge of Kinetic Spark Consulting.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to Mortgage Lending Mastery. I'm your host, Jen Du Plessis. Today I have a wonderful guest with me, Kimberly Weitkamp. And Kimberly and I had the wonderful opportunity of meeting in San Diego at New Media Summit, which is a big podcaster convention. I mean, that's the only way I know how to say it. And I want to take this opportunity to introduce her to you. She is a successful marketing strategist, podcaster, and conversion copywriter, which is really important because today what we're going to be talking about is client magnets and conversion. These are the things that we want to be talking about because so many people come to me and say, I need more leads. And yes, we do need more leads. All of us need more leads, but you know what? You have acres of diamonds in the leads that you already have. We need to be able to convert more of them as often as we possibly can. So Kimberly had discovered the world of marketing through writing articles about travel while working as an English teacher in Spain. So now, do you speak Spanish now as well?
I do actually. When I went to Spain, I had a Spanish degree.
Oh, good, cool. And she has developed the Concierge conversion method, which we're going to talk about here today. She is also the podcast host of the Audience Converter, which you'll want to make sure that you subscribe to. Give her a 5-star rating and write a review just like you do for me as well, because this would be really good. It's your audience, and we'll be talking about that as well. She helps her audiences discover a new, more authentic approach to marketing that centers around building loyal customers who rave about you and your products. With the right pieces in place, you can create a powerful relationship with your buyers that will go on for years. And this is really, really key for us because we're all trying to figure things out on the internet and it's just not working. So Kimberly, welcome to the show. I'm so happy to have you here with me.
Thanks for having me, Jen. I'm really excited to be here and to talk with you today.
I am too. So we also shared a couple of meals together, right?
We did. Yes, we did.
We were at one of the Mexican restaurants and it was fantastic, which was really, really good. Big plates though. Really big plates, if you remember.
Very large plates, and apparently not understanding less spicy.
Yes, I know, that's right. We were all worried about that. So today what we're going to talk about in the big scope of things is how to simplify and that wasn't even a word, be authentic in your marketing, which you've heard a lot of times, but I know that Kimberly has a very, very easy way of doing that. So let's get started with, I know that one of the gifts that you're going to be giving to people, and I won't be talking about it until the very end, but one of the gifts that you'll be giving to them is the ability to start working on a long-term 1-year plan for marketing. And I feel that this is really, really important. It's something that I preach about with my clients all the time because one, it's just a strategy, right? It's not random acts of marketing. It's precisely what it is, a strategy, but it's also important to avoid shiny object syndromes. And I think that's what happens with people is they see a cool idea and so they divert and then they divert again. And no wonder the marketing doesn't work. So that's what we want to be talking about today. But it really starts with mindset. So tell us a little bit about how we need to change our marketing mindset to get us started today.
Absolutely. So one of the things I found when working with a lot of clients is they kind of suffered from a few syndromes, but shiny object syndrome was one of them, where a lot of people would realize, oh, I need to do this one thing, which is, maybe it's creating case studies, maybe it's, doing more on social media, whatever it was. They would say, I need this one project. And then I would ask them, okay, well, how is that going to fit into your marketing? And they'd be like, well, it's going to work because that's what the new thing says is that it's going to work.
Right. That is marketing. Yeah.
Right. And basically, I realized that a lot of people, they couldn't see the big picture. And what I've tried to teach my clients is that it's not about the individual marketing piece. It's not about having more of any one thing. It's about making sure that you're providing exactly what your ideal clients are looking for. So instead of saying, I need to put out more, it needs to be about what am I putting out and where is it going to reach somebody on the customer journey. So, you've got a lot of mortgage lenders and people in real estate on the show here. And somebody's looking for a house maybe, but they're in like that early stage and they're not really thinking about the intense questions. So it's, what are the 5 things you should look for when looking for a real estate agent? That's what they're concerned about because they're just at the very beginning. Or, if they're moving a little bit further along, then they're starting to think of the really deeper questions. So what I talk about is helping is your secret weapon. Forming the entirety of your marketing strategy and campaign based on what do your ideal clients need help with?
Right.
What do they need help with? And then all you need to do is you create the pieces that answer those questions, that speak to those concerns, that reach them at the different stages. Because your audience is not all at one stage. They aren't all ready to sign a mortgage and are just looking for a bank. They're not all ready, looking for a new house, right? They're at different stages of the journey. And you need to make sure that whatever you're creating is matching where they are and is also moving them to the next step that they need to be at.
Yeah, I absolutely love that because, I talk about the buying window all the time, most of the time what we see out for realtors is, hey, this house is listed, you should buy it. And what we see from loan officers is rates are great, you should refinance, you should buy, now's a great time to buy. And they're not even close to that. Some are, and that's good. And I love that you're saying it all across, their needs. But when we think about the buying window, a great story for any of us is running across a client that we've had in the past, right? Or somebody that we've talked to in the past. And we're at Starbucks in line and we run across them and they go, oh yeah, we just closed on our house. And we're like, oh, why didn't you call me, right? And it's because we weren't with them throughout that whole period of, over time, desire increases. And it's a graph of that, right? Where over time, desire increases. And we might catch them down at the beginning. We might catch them in the buying window, but not yet ready to pull the trigger. We might catch them just on the other side of the buying window, which is that example. And then more importantly, we need to keep them after the buying window so that when they come back into that buying window again, we have the opportunity to work with them. And I know you're going to talk about keeping them for that conversion and having them for lifelong. So I love that you're saying that, helping them is the secret weapon, not what we want to relay, but rather what they want to receive. So I think that's fantastic. So, helping them in those different categories. So what are some tips that you could give people about helping? Because I know that when I'm online, there's a lot of, now the big thing is to do questions, write questions so that people are engaged. Like, what's your favorite color and why? And what's your favorite piece of clothing and why? And, where did you have your first kiss? And so all of these engaging things, but to me, they're engaging, they're social, but to me, that's not building business necessarily. So what are some suggestions that you have about the content that goes out for those? Is it, 5 steps this, 7 steps that only, or is it a combination of a lot of different things that you could recommend?
Absolutely. It's a combination for sure. And you'll see a lot of stats or a lot of numbers thrown out. Some people swear by 80-20, others swear by, 50-50. Whatever you're going to be putting out into the world, I always recommend something along the lines of, for every one piece of content that you share, which is asking them to invest something in you, whether that's clicking through to your website, whether that's signing up for a free, free showing, whether that's, just getting them into your database, whatever it is, when you're asking them to invest in you, you should be sharing 2 to 3 other pieces that are not about directly investing with you. Now, that doesn't mean that it can't be about your topic. You can definitely be sharing, as you said, those like the 5 top things to be looking for XYZ when looking for a new home. Or even, if people are looking for a new home, what's the next step they're going to need to do? they're going to want to decorate their new house. So sharing things about how to make your new home sparkle, or, something that's slightly related to your topic. It doesn't always have to be a direct topic relation to what you're talking about. And then, as you said, asking those questions is always valuable if you're going to get engagement. But if you put a few of those questions out there and you get nothing back, then it's time for another approach. And that's one thing that I really emphasize in marketing of any kind is, you know more about your audience than anybody else. However, your audience is always changing. So you can test things. And when I say test, it means once or twice, right? If you put out a question about, what is your favorite color and why, or you can, kind of tweak it a little bit to more for your own topic. Like, the architectural design today said something about having accent walls. Do you approve? Yes or no, and why?
Right.
Okay, so that relates to what you're talking about. It relates to your business and your service, but it's also kind of fun and engaging and can maybe be a light read and something interesting for your people to want to interact with you online.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. So what you're talking about is the book Jab, 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 Hook, which is, social, 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 social. Oh, by the way, I'm a lender. Oh, by the way, I'm a realtor. Oh, by the way, I'm a dentist, whatever, whatever it is. They're talking about that. So let me ask you whether or not that same type of posting that we're talking about now, the questions or information, should be across all of your platforms. Should you be having that same type of questioning? Because I haven't seen those types of questions, like what's your favorite color, in LinkedIn, but I've absolutely seen it in Facebook. So how do those differ in what we want to put out from content, if just to make it easy for ourselves? If my goal is color, I'm going to ask the color question today. How do I change that to put it on LinkedIn where it's more professional?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Well, so that's one of the age-old questions, right? In the early days, definitely you could put the same stuff across and no one would care. But if somebody is going to follow you on one social network and not on another social network, the nature of the networks is very different.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, Twitter, it's really fast moving. Twitter will save, so-and-so hasn't tweeted for a while. They just did. Go check it out. But the algorithm it's always changing. So it's kind of a hard thing to just necessarily narrow down. But one of the things you can do so that you're not kind of drowning and trying to find your own content is you can slightly reword the exact same thing. So what I see a lot is people will share an article, for example, but they don't do anything else. They just share the title and say, go read it.
Yeah.
Well, you have to have a benefit.
Yeah.
You have to have a benefit, and it has to be related to the network you're on. So if you're sharing this article on LinkedIn, for example, have that more professional slant, who are you trying to connect with? And that's something you always need to have in the back of your mind is, who am I wanting to reach with this? So, is LinkedIn the proper network to really be forming the connection that I want for my particular pursuit at this time? Or is it Facebook, or is it Twitter, or is it something else? It just depends. However, you can use the same piece of content and then you just kind of, you tweak the share a little bit.
Yeah.
So you create a slightly different share for Twitter. It's going to be much shorter. Obviously, it's going to have hashtags, and you want to make sure it's something that, it's a hashtag that people actually use as opposed to one you just think is really cool.
Yeah.
On LinkedIn, you can change the share a little bit, asking for feedback in a professional instance. One of the things you really want to keep in mind is always, who am I talking to? Who are people when they're on LinkedIn? Who are people on Facebook? When we talked about how often to share, for example, people on LinkedIn, they spend about 11 minutes on average per month. Okay,
Right.
That's a really short amount of time on that network. So the amount of time that you have to engage them to really make that connection is very short and needs to be very relevant. Whereas on Twitter, people spend lots of time there, but it's 30 seconds at a time. They scroll and then they're done. So keeping your channel in mind, and then also keeping the audience that you want to reach in mind.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Yep. Very clear, easy to understand. Okay. So if we get our mindset straight and we're saying, that it's about helping. And so what we're doing is providing information that's helpful. We're not reaching and grabbing and going, call me, look at me, call me. We're saying, how can I be a guide for you through whatever your sales process is? And then the next thing that I want to talk about is about the formulas, that you're talking. You had said ditch the formulas, right? And market yourself and your company by being you. Discover what's unique about you. So what can our listeners do to figure out what they are? I know
To
that
figure
sounds
out
really
what they
funny,
are.
but people are like, I don't know who I am. I like, if I saw you, Kimberly, I'd go, oh, well, I want to be like her. So now I'm going to start marketing like her because she said some really cool things, but those aren't in alignment with me necessarily. And so this is us just grabbing at these straws. And so there's where the authenticity is lost. So what can we do to, now that we got our head straight, we know who we want to do, how do we relay who we are in an authentic manner?
Absolutely. So one of the things I've noticed is people, templates and formulas are great. They're a great starting point. But a lot of people don't go past that. What they'll do is they'll take that formula or they'll take the template that they've gotten from, some digital marketing person, and they will only replace the absolute minimum number of words in what they're sending out.
Right.
And, that's not how people talk, right? It's not how that particular person talks, because when you're talking about the person who's going to help you purchase your home, that needs to be a really close relationship. And
Mhm.
the reason they want to work with you as opposed to the other person they saw on a billboard is because they like who you are. They like your approach, they like what you do, and they like the way you talk to them. So you don't want to be borrowing somebody else's words to speak with them in your marketing, because that's not you. And
Right.
that also creates kind of a lack of trust and a disconnect, because the first time they reach out to you, they're going to be like, wait a minute, this is not what I was expecting.
It's kind
Because
of like realtors who have pictures and now it's 30 years later and we're like, this doesn't match.
right, I've seen that before, where I meet somebody in person, I was like, wait, is
You
that
don't look like your
you?
picture. Yeah.
I'm so confused, right? I'm so
Right.
lost.
Right.
So the way to be authentic in your marketing, it's one of those things that a lot of people they struggle with, because they want to be, that have that professional veneer. How much do I share? How much do I not share? So what I tell people is get a friend. Okay, say, hey, can you spare 30 minutes so that I can talk my topic to you? Have them ask the top 2 or 3 questions that you get from people who have just met you, who are wanting your services, right? That initial phone call. What are your top 2 or 3 questions? Have your friend ask that to you, and then record the conversation. So record your answers and the way you speak to your friend, because suddenly, you're having that interaction
Yeah.
that is much more personal. It's much more real, and then you get a transcription of your conversation, and then you can kind of cherry pick to create your own marketing from what you've actually said, from what you've actually spoken. Now, the written word is slightly different than the spoken word, but marketing
Yeah.
is much more conversational now than it used to be. So, that's a really great starting point. And then you can use those phrases, you can use the way you talk about things, and you can plug them into your formula, or you can plug them into your template saying, oh, this is what they want us to talk about right now. I said that phrase, oh yeah, at minute number 4, that's when I started talking about this particular problem solution. So then you have a starting point for how you want to structure something, but you're using your words, you're using your approach, and you're using your unique self in your marketing, so that you are part of your marketing, because the reason they're going to work with you is because they like you, not because they like some random person's template on the internet who's selling it for $5.
Yeah, I love that. And that's a great way to find out who you really are, that's funny you said that. I have to tell you a quick story. I was, a couple years ago, I shouldn't say several, it was a couple years ago, I was in my office just talking to clients. And this is when I, was still in lending, and my production partner came in and she said, I love all these little catchphrases that you use, or all these phrases that, well, she said catchphrases that you use. And I didn't even realize I was doing it. Right.
Right.
And I said, well, do me a favor. Since you can hear me on my conversations, write down these catchphrases for me. And, we'll come up with this list. I'm curious what I say. That turned into a webinar that I do called Catch Me If You Can. It's about scripting without using scripts. It's using catchphrases to build bridges. Right. And so to
Fantastic.
figure out what those catchphrases are. And I think that a great way of doing it. I mean, so it may not be that if you don't want to put yourself in a vacuum to meet with your friend, and you're being engaged on what you're trying to say, right? And I think that's a great way to do it. But I think an additional way is just have someone eavesdrop on you and write stuff down too, because then you're not as aware of what's of what you're saying to your friend. so to speak.
Absolutely.
But I
Or
think
another
both are
option.
great. I love both, and I would love to do both, you know.
Definitely. Or another option is if you can get permission from the person who, is picking up that phone for the first time, say,
Record.
do you mind if I record this? And then always adding that caveat. Look, it's so that when I talk to you again, I will have all of the information in front of me so that I can, refer back to this so that I don't have to constantly ask you the same question twice.
Right.
And usually you'll get people saying yes, but, with
Yeah.
confidentiality and all those types of things,
Yeah.
getting a friend to do it, getting somebody to just kind of place a recorder, record you, a lot of those digital voice recorders, they'll last like 2 days if you have the right kind of batteries sometimes. So just
Yeah.
kind of putting it on your desk, and by midway through the first day, you'll forget it's there. And then you'll have a slew of information to go through.
Yeah, I love that exercise. So hopefully everyone's listening in on that and, say, aha, that's how I'm going to identify who I am in the marketplace. So I love that. Okay. So we have our mindset. We now know who we are, and we're speaking our own language in marketing, instead of someone else's language in marketing. So let's talk about, and we'll walk through this, with our lost buyers, and then how we have magnets, and then lastly, how do we convert more of them? So what do we do with the people that we've lost? Where these leads have disappeared, they were engaged online, they were engaged, in our email distribution lists, and all that. And all of a sudden they've sort of disappeared, because I've always been of the opinion that if I'm not in front of my clients, my competition is, right? And so that means competition may have gotten in front of them. So how do we re-engage and bring back these lost opportunities so that we don't have to go out and get new opportunities as the only sole way of growing our business?
Absolutely. So my philosophy is it's never too late to reach out. And that's because, in general, people have, if they've handed over your email, or if they've gotten onto a database from handing over a business card at a networking event or something like that, they were interested in what you had to say at that moment. And they said, yes, I want to hear more from you. So even if you've kind of fallen behind on reaching out through your database, or if it's been, oh my gosh, it's been 4 months and I haven't picked up the phone, it's never too late to reach out. Putting that in your mind, that it's never too late to reach out, and that you're not bothering them because they asked for information from you.
Right.
Now, what will happen is if you do some kind of re-engagement campaign, and then you have people who say no, or they unsubscribe, or they pick up the phone and they say, yeah, I'm not really interested anymore. That's fantastic for you, because you now know they are no longer in the same place, or they've moved past that place, or they've changed their mind about something. You have more information about them, and you can change the way you interact, whether that's completely losing them from your list if they've asked to be removed, or if that's, dialing back how often you reach out because they're not in the same place anymore. That's great information for you. So number one is it's never too late to reach out. Number two, be thankful when people say no thank you anymore, because that kind of narrows down the list that you have, and you're able to give you're able to give more effort to the people who are interested. And then number three is if you are reaching out again, do not use the phrase, sorry, it's been so long.
Right.
Because that reminds them that it's been a long time.
Right. It's been so.
And I don't know about your inbox, but my inbox usually has like 1,000 or more unread messages at any one time. And that's like the primary inbox, right? So if you reach out and you remind people that it's been a long time, then they'll be like, wait, why did I sign up for this in the first place? And they're going to leave. However, if you just reach out and say, I'm so excited to get in touch with you. This is what I've been up to. These are the new things that I think you might be interested in. Here's a resource for you. Suddenly they're like, oh yeah, that's an interesting subject line. Or, if you're picking up the phone and talking to people, then they're like, oh, it's so great to hear from you. Yeah, this crazy thing happened in my family and we had to change our plans for the last 3 months, but we're thinking of next month getting in touch and starting this. And so suddenly you have reached them again at the right time. Now you're top of mind. And if they are ready to move forward in 2 or 3 weeks, you're going to be the first name on their mind to reach out to. So those are the steps I would have people keep in mind, right? That it's never too late to reach out. Being aware, going ahead and making that connection. If somebody says no thanks, great, you've got more information, move on. And then not reminding them that it's been a while and just reaching out with value.
Yeah, I love that. I absolutely love that. So let me ask you a side question on this, since you're an expert in this area. So a lot of loan officers and realtors aren't very good after the loan has closed, the house is purchased. They're not very good at keeping in touch with their clients, and I actually have some clients, and not to say, and I know that my listeners know this too, is it's not everybody, but a lot of people don't do it. And so it's after, it's a retention piece of this, not so much a lost prospect, but it is about the retention of people, as I said before, on the other side of that window, right? So that they can go back into that sales cycle. And some haven't called people for 7, 15 years, and they're still in their database. It's crazy. So what would you recommend for that conversation? Because it's been a long time. And so you almost can't, put the dirt underneath the rug and say that it hasn't, and just make the comment of, hey, I'm just reaching out and here's some value. So what do you recommend for something like that without apologizing?
Well, I would say starting today, create a process for automated outreach, whether that's sending a postcard once a year, whether that's sending a holiday greeting once a year, whether that is giving you a really annoying thing on your electronic calendar that's going to pop up and remind you that you need to call somebody until you actually call them. Set up a process today that will automate that outreach just a little bit for you, so that
It will becomes warm.
then people can become warm. And also, I say put it on automatic, because it is hard to keep in touch with people 2, 5, 7 years after the fact, especially if that's how long it's going to take until they're ready to buy another home. So if you put it on automatic, it's still a nice reminder. It's still lovely. You can make it so that, again, it's your words and not just a template of words being sent out. And that can kind of keep you top of mind. But for those people who you haven't spoken with in 7, 8, 10 years, as you were saying, if you are going to reach out, I would reach out in a way that gives them the opportunity to say yes or no. So if you call somebody out of the blue, they might have changed phone numbers, they might have changed homes, they might have changed a lot of different things. And if they don't recognize the number anymore because they don't have your contact information, they're probably not going to answer it. But if you send out a little value, right? Send out a postcard letting them know about new something or others that are going to affect current homeowners, for example. And it's a link to a place where they can download that information. That's useful to them where they are. They can choose to engage with you, or they can choose to not engage with you. And it also makes it so that you're not spending a lot of time on the people who it has been literal years, and then just getting a lot of hangups or getting a lot of wrong numbers. But it gives you an opportunity to still provide value, to still remind them of who you are, but it also gives them an opportunity to say, you know what, this is my forever home, I'm not moving again. Or to say, okay, yeah, you know what, that would be interesting, I would like to know more.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Okay, so let's move on to new engagement, because we obviously want to go back to as many clients as we have, because we already have them. We worked really hard to get them. But now we want new clients, and we've got our mindset together. We've got, we know who we are, and we now want to become a magnet, and we want to attract clients rather than chase clients. How do we start that? What is the process that we start doing, to get those new buyers, those new people in our in our database?
So new people in your database, it's, there's a whole lot of different approaches, and it depends on your time. It depends on resources. One of the best ways for you to engage people is to just be answering questions in related groups on social media. That's one of the less popular answers because it takes a lot of time for people. Mm-hmm. But if you join those groups of people, they're already your ideal client, right? If they're in a group talking about the processes that for specific to first-time homeowners or first-time home buyers, well, they have lots of questions and you can answer them. Now, it's not answering them in a, hey, this is what I do, go to my website. It's providing value. And it's, it doesn't have to be really long. We're talking 1 to 2 sentences, but if you can help them just a little bit, they get your name in their mind. And if you start interacting a lot in those groups, then wow, yeah, okay, that's really great. Another option that's not going to require you to join groups is to answer questions on sites like Quora or Reddit. where
Right.
people are asking questions about those particular topics. You can prove your expertise. And once you get 5, 10 answers under your belt, it's something you can do in 10 minutes a day, literally. Take 2 days a week, answer 1 to 2 questions in 10 minutes on those 2 days. And suddenly after 2 or 3 weeks, you've got a very large library of answers. You're also realizing that you're creating your own marketing materials because these are the questions people are currently asking. So if I've seen
Those
this
are
type
the
of question.
problems you're solving. Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. If I've seen this question 4 times, great. I should create a lead magnet. I should create a giveaway that's like a checklist you need to go through to answer this type of question. Or here's the top 5 things everyone's concerned about in 2020 for this particular topic, right?
Yeah.
So it'll be your research, and it will also get your name out there and raise awareness.
Yeah, I love that. And listen, guys, it's not a lot of time. I mean, going in and doing that, it's no different than going into Facebook and playing around, right? I have a couple questions about the groups though.
Yes.
So I'm in some groups, I have some groups, and people like to put their stuff in there. And I got to the point where I was like, you know what, no one can put it in without my permission now.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yes. No, that's really
So
common.
yeah. So it's not about us dumping our stuff in there. It's about us, going in and answering the questions, and then hopefully someone will follow us. So in the context of that, do you recommend that we put links to our website or to our, what our event, or hashtags? Do you think we should be putting our own hashtags in there to try to get more activity and involvement, or just answer the question and be helpful?
So it depends definitely on the rules of the group. Obviously, I would highly recommend know the rules of your group. Do not violate them, because if you violate them, then you've lost a huge potential resource.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're probably not going to let you back in. And I know I've been a part of groups where it's literally people just post their stuff. There is no rule against sharing promotions, but
Yeah.
that's all anyone does. So there's no real engagement. There's no real connections. I can't imagine people actually get lots of leads from that type of group, because all it is, oh, it's time. I'm doing another promotion. It's time for me to post about it in this group.
Yeah.
So know
Well,
the
and
rules of your
actually,
group.
you and I are in a group that does that. When you say that, I'm immediately thinking of one of the groups that you and I are in.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just a lot of promotional shares. But I noticed that there's not a lot of comments. There's not a lot of things in there, of people interacting with it. It's just another place for you to do a billboard.
Exactly. And, it's one of those things as a conversion copywriter, billboards, you can't necessarily figure out the conversion on it, because you don't
Yeah.
know how many people actually drove by unless you have a particular phone number that's only on that one billboard. So it's the same type of thing.
Yeah. Yep.
So in the groups, definitely know the rules. And then if there are, most of those rules will say, don't share your website. So then obviously don't share your website. But, there's value in sharing value. I'm in a group that has a no promotion rule. Okay. You cannot promote your own services, but there's nothing against you answering questions. And so I've gone through and answered questions, and I've had 3 or 4 people reach out to me individually saying, I love what you do. Can we talk more? I think I want you to help me. I say,
Right.
okay, sure. So,
Right.
it does work. People do appreciate when you are helping them.
Right.
But, if you have the opportunity, like if you are using Quora as your option, Quora does allow you to, on the bottom of all of your answers, have like a signature. So you can
Yeah.
lead them to a lead magnet, or you can lead them to your website, or you can lead them to, here's my next event going on. So it just depends on what method and medium you're using, but definitely follow the rules and be helpful.
Yeah, I love that. Well, and like you said in the beginning, is that helping is your secret weapon. I mean, it truly is your secret weapon. And, we have a tendency in all business, it's like, gimme, 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 but we've got to give,
Mm-hmm.
give first before we can get. And, and I think that that's really powerful. I want to ask you another little question about just posting in general, when you're posting, because I've heard different things, and I want to see if I can't get a real answer. And
Okay.
you're going to give me a real answer. How many hashtags are too many? That's one. Number 2 is when you post, I also heard that as soon as you post, as long as you go back in and comment on your post within 7 minutes or 70 seconds or some kind of crazy thing, or 70 minutes, I don't know the number. As long as you post on your own post, you will get more exposure to more people. So tell me if that's myth or fact, and maybe there's another alternative, and tell me about these hashtags. And does it differ in the hashtags in Facebook versus LinkedIn versus Twitter?
So, here's my real answer. And my real answer is that social media is only one of many, many marketing channels. So I don't know all of the details of all of the social media channels. That being said, originally hashtags really weren't used in Facebook. That was how you knew somebody was using an automatic poster, was that the post had hashtags on it. So that's a newer change. And Facebook is unfortunately constantly changing its algorithm.
Yeah.
So the part about commenting immediately, I mean, Facebook likes engagement.
Right.
Facebook wants people to stay on Facebook, which is why if you're on your mobile now and you click on a link on Facebook, it's actually, you're still actually in Facebook's platform when you're reading
Yes.
that.
Yeah.
And then because you're not going away.
Yeah.
But if you're on a desktop, that's not necessarily the case. You're no longer in Facebook. So Facebook likes it when people stay on Facebook. So if you're publishing something and then Facebook realizes as an algorithm that, oh, people like this because they've had interactions, then they'll give it more juice, essentially. However, if it's yourself doing that, I'm not sure how much juice Facebook will give to you. That being said, I have a business page, I have a Facebook group, and I have a personal profile on Facebook. So my business page can share the stuff from my personal profile, or the
Right.
group can share stuff to my business page, or what have you. So that's me sharing it, but it's another entity on Facebook, so that might give it a little bit of extra
Interesting.
juice.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, yeah, thank you. Thanks for clarifying that. Good. All right, so the last piece of this is conversion. So we now know how to get back our lost people, what to do. We know how to create some magnets by helping and going to these areas. What can we do to increase the conversion? Because yes, it's great that someone said, I like this, and I, emojied, I responded, and I said, cool, versus, some long sentence. But how do we actually get those conversions without being a pain in the butt to people? Because I'll tell you, for LinkedIn, as soon as I accept somebody from LinkedIn, I get an auto responder that says bye bye bye, and I
Mm-hmm.
immediately go back in and unfriend them again.
Absolutely. I'm with you.
Immediately.
I just find that really grating. It's kind of like, if you walk into a store and you just want to look around and immediately 5 salespeople
Yeah.
converge on you and they're like,
Yeah.
what can I help you find? And I'm like, can
Yeah.
I just look?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I'm sure. Can I just help? Can I just go look, please? So in terms of conversion, all of the things that we've talked about, they lay the foundation for increasing conversions already, because what you're doing, the way you're approaching it is completely different from what 80-90% of companies are doing out there.
Yeah.
So that's going to help your conversions as well. One other thing to do, which a lot of people kind of forget, is to include a call to action, which means tell them what to do next. Now, for a lot of people on social, especially, what they want is more followers. They want more engagement on a particular post. So they'll say something like, let me know your thoughts below. That's
Mhm.
great. But then that's not a next step for them to take.
No, and
So
I've done that and I've gotten nothing.
exactly.
Right.
So it's
Yeah.
having an idea in your strategy that you lay out. Where do I want them to go next? And
Mhm.
then coming up with 5 or 6 different ways to ask them to take that next step.
Okay, so can you give us an example of that? Because I'm not sure I understand 5 to 6 ways, take the next step. So if I'm like, something about credit, if I put something on there about credit right now, and I don't do any of this anymore, but if a loan
Okay.
officer put something on there about credit and it says, did you know that if you paid off collection, it can actually make your credit score go down? Read this article, that's proof behind me saying this because I already know it's true. Hope you like this article. Hashtag credit.
Hashtag hashtag credit.
Right.
So
So
one
where
of
do
the
we go from there?
where do you go from there?
Yeah.
So one approach you can take is there are, and I am blanking, of course, on the tools that do this, but there are short URL shorteners that you
Yeah.
can use.
Bitly.
Bitly is one of them, but there
Mhm.
are other URL shorteners that you can use that create your own promotional material for things you share.
Oh,
So when you
cool.
share an article
Yeah.
like the one about credit, when they go to that article, there will be a pop-up that's an opt-in to your site or to
Oh, cool.
direct them to something that you wrote
Your
so that they
email or
go.
whatever. Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. And you can create those automatically, or you can, I recommend creating each of those manually and having like 5 to 10 pieces that
Okay.
you're going to use to gather that kind of information. I have one of them and I am blanking on the name and I apologize. I will send it to you and you can put it in the show notes.
Yep.
Those URL shorteners. So that way you're sharing content that you didn't create so that people like it because it's not your content. But when they get to that page, the next step, there's a little option that comes up, halfway through the read, at the end of the read, what have you. Here's something related to this, you can learn more. And that takes them to, for example, if on your site you have a calculator to figure out if I do
How much I qualify
XYZ,
for. Yeah.
what will happen to my credit, then you can direct them to that calculator. They've just read about credit. They've just read about what does and doesn't affect it. Great. I wonder if this particular instance that's unique to me that wasn't mentioned exactly word for word in that article will work. Oh, there's a calculator I can use. Fantastic. So they're going to click on the calculator and they're going to use that. And then, on the side of the calculator, you can either have them opt in to get their results or you can do a few different items. So that's one option.
Right.
Another
So
option.
it doesn't have to be on the actual post itself. It could be embedded in the next click.
Correct.
Okay. Got it.
Correct. So that's it. That's the next click. Another option is you create 7 to 10 social media shares across your different networks about that particular article, but not all of them are going to link to the article. You can just be talking about credit as a share and then directing them to your calculator. The interesting tidbit about paying off a collection, lowering your credit score, see what else can impact your credit score, use our calculator today and then direct them to that. That's still something very helpful. It's still something that is going to be meeting your audience where they are if they see that kind of post.
Right.
But it's not saying, oh, you have to go read something, because some people are going to be like, oh, that's really interesting. I wonder what that'll do to my credit. They don't necessarily want to go read the whole article. They just want the calculator. So go ahead and offer them the calculator.
Okay, so that's so cool. And it's okay. Keep going. I love that. I love that idea because actually I call that the daily digital deep dive, where you just, you have, your post or an article you could, but I'm talking about like your post in LinkedIn, which is full and lengthy and businessy, and then a quick blurb about it on your business page on Facebook, and then you share that to your personal. And then, you blip it and revert people back to the LinkedIn article or to, some other place on Twitter, right? Or Instagram,
Yes.
Where you're slowly giving less and less information, where it's now just links and actionable items there.
Absolutely.
But I'm still learning great things. I mean, I don't think I'm taking copious notes. Those of you that aren't watching but are listening, you just need to know that I'm taking notes.
Yes, I keep seeing her pen going. I'm like, I hope these
some are
asking
you, I want to ask you a question, but most of them are like, no, I'm taking notes. I love it. Love it.
Absolutely. So that is another method. What you said was having one piece of anchor content and then creating a lot of social shares out of that.
Yeah.
And at the end of your anchor content, you're going to ask them to do something.
Yeah.
And that may be, look, ready to see how your credit can impact that. Let's get on a 15-minute call.
Yeah.
Eventually, you're going to have to ask them to invest their time and invest their money into you.
Yeah.
So social media is a great awareness tool. It's a great lead generation tool. It's not necessarily the perfect conversion tool, just because they need to go somewhere else first.
Yeah.
They, as you said, social is very much, oh, I like that. Oh, I'm going to leave a quick comment. Oh, I'm going to share that maybe without actually reading everything.
Right.
So it's a great way for you to get engagement. It's a great way for you to kind of expand your reach way farther than you could ever do before. But eventually you're going to have to ask them to get in touch with you directly, whether that's signing up for an email list, whether that's downloading a worksheet that you have, whether that is asking them.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, eventually you're going to have to ask for that conversion. But when I talk about a conversion rate, a lot of people, the only idea that they have in their mind is a conversion means they got the loan from me, or conversion means, they chose me to be their realtor and then we sold the house.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And the reality is that there's a conversion rate for every single step of the process to move your audience from I know nothing to I'm ready to maybe buy a house, I don't know what to do next, to okay, now I know I need to get a realtor. Now I know I need to figure this out. Now I know I need to figure this out. And, so there's a lot of little steps in between. And the idea is that if you're sharing something, for example, as a lead generation tool on social media, your conversion is to get them to take the next step, which is signing up for your email list.
Right.
Or which is reaching out to say, yes, I want a phone call. And, if that phone call out didn't work, but they did end up signing up for your email list, Well, then, 2 or 3 emails down the line, you ask them for that call again, and then maybe they're ready.
Yep. Yep. And manage them through that time and desire to the buying window. Yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely. Absolutely love that. Okay. So we have our mindset, we have all of it. I mean, this is pretty cool. And I know that a lot of people are saying, oh my gosh, I have to tell you, Kimberly, I mean, I've had lots of people on with social media and there's lots of ideas and, about what to do and how many posts to make. But I mean, I really like that it's just simple and laid out and, it's definitely work, and that's okay because, if you do what's easy, your life will be hard. If you do what's hard, your life will be easy. So you have to do a little work to make this
Right.
easier on the backside of things. But I just have to say that from a social media standpoint and just even marketing, that you have been my best guest on this because I can.
Why, thank
And I'm
you.
very linear. I'm very linear because I'm an engineer. So I'm very linear. I need to think through that, and a lot of times social media becomes very jumbled, and it reminds me of Linus with all of his clouds around him and
Right.
everything. And I'm very techie, so that's not the issue. It's just, there's so many ways to do things. And I love that you just made it very, very simple for everyone to understand. So what is everyone's next step? If they're listening to this and they're saying, I love this, I absolutely love this, I got to get more information about it. They might put a few things into play. They might, record themselves, have someone eavesdrop, meet a friend. They might go, okay, I want to help people, and they might start engaging in groups and created their own group. And now they know how to engage. They know how to do a few other things. How to layer or tier up, some content. What is the next step to say, how do I make sure this gets done? Because as we all know, I talk about stop talking, take action, get results. How do we go beyond just pecking at this, a little here and a little there, to have that year-long marketing plan?
So the key to having a year-long marketing plan is to sit down and create your year-long marketing plan. And the way that's going to work is, you have to set aside the time. And, if we've been talking about social media, we've also kind of touched a little bit on, postcards and touched a little bit on emails. There's no way for you to know what is working unless you're actually watching what is working.
Right.
Um, and one of the first things I said was that a lot of people, they're like, I need to do this because people tell me this is what works, but they don't know where it falls into their marketing strategy.
Yeah.
So the next step is to sit down and decide, what will my marketing strategy be? Because one of the things I recommend to people is, don't start with 4 or 5 options. Start with 1. And if that means that you just focus on LinkedIn, for example, for 3 months, that's what you have to do. Now, because it's a long-term strategy. And if you dive into 5 new things at once,
Right.
none of them are going to get done. So sitting down, figuring out, where do I want to start? Where are my people? What are they asking? And how can I help them? And how can I help them is key, because social media, a lot of people got so excited, right, when there were all these tools out there that could automate everything. Well, social media has the word social in it. It's meant to be social.
Right.
So if you
Keep it
don't
simple.
have the time,
Yeah.
if you don't have the time to interact, then social media is not the method for you, because
Yeah.
you have to put in the time.
I love that. Yep, I love that. So, how does someone get a hold of you? And I know you have a nice little gift for us. So, tell us about the gift that you're going to have available for us. And of course, we'll have the link in our show notes here. But tell us about the gift that you have for us.
Absolutely. So we were talking about, how do you get your marketing plan in place? So I have the 5-day challenge to get your marketing plan in place. Now, what is that going to be? It's going to be an overview, right? Making sure that you know exactly what I was talking about, all the different aspects of the marketing plan, making sure you have an idea of what those all are, and then putting them into a plan that makes sense. So the 5-day challenge to get your marketing plan in place. And one of the things I always tell people is, it's never too late to get a marketing plan in place, because if you're willy-nilly and you decide, oh, well, I need to get a strategy, but it's May, I don't,
Yeah.
it's too late. And you're like, it's never too late. It's
Yeah.
better to put something in effect now.
Why is it in a calendar? And you're always marketing. Always be
You're always marketing. That's right.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. Okay, wonderful. So the gift that you have available then is a 5-day challenge. Now, is someone going to have to plan, nothing for 5 days, or is this like little pieces of things? How much time does someone need to allot for this?
So I would say 10 minutes a day.
Oh, wow. That's easy.
10 minutes a day. You're going to have 1 or 2 questions to answer. And then the next day, you're going to have a few more. You might have to take an action step. But again, it's 10 minutes a day to get the framework for a marketing plan in place.
Yeah. And I love how you just said but you might have to take an action step. I mean, my goodness, people, this is your job, right? So it's not, right? It's your job anyway. So it's an action step that's going to move your business forward. And that's what I absolutely love about it. So Kimberly, what are you reading right now that's inspiring you?
Oh boy, what am I reading that's inspiring me right now?
Listening to.
Listening to. That's a good one. I am rereading a really, really valuable book. I read it at the end of last year, and lots of things are going on. Lots of things are going on this year, but it's called Work the System, and it is all about how to create processes in your business. And part of creating the processes in your business is finding out what you should be doing and what you should be giving somebody else to be doing.
I love it.
Love it. So Work the System, really huge fan of it. I read it once and I know as I'm going through it again, I am just getting all of these, oh, right, I forgot about that part. I got to go put that into effect.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. My mentor, Darren Hardy, told me to reread all the books I read, because I read about 3 a week. So it's hard for me to say which book is my favorite book in this world, and I can't remember in one book if that's what I read or if it was the other book I read. He said that I need to stop doing that and I need to start going back and reread all my books 5 times.
5 times?
Read every book 5 times. If it's
you get to sleep?
Development, business or personal development. Now, I'm not going to read, I don't read the kind of nasty stuff anyway, but if you're going to read it, go back in and consume it. And I think it stems from, we all learn about 20% the first time we learn something. So you actually do need to do it. So listen to the podcast 5 times. You'll get more stuff if you have all the time in the world. So I just want to say thank you so much for gracing us with your presence and helping us to really lay this out in a simple way, to start marketing differently and thinking differently. I think the biggest thing I gained out of this was changing the mindset of helping. And I've heard it before, but I needed to hear it today. And now I'm really excited to go in. And matter of fact, I just wrote down that I have to time block the ability to go in and do some more helping in some of the groups and really get my name out there more, in these groups, that I can answer these questions and help people with their challenges that they have. So I just want to say thank you so much for joining us today. And it's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciated the invitation.
Of course. And I can't wait to see you again in April. We'll see each other again. So everyone, thank you so much for listening in on our podcast today. Hopefully we caught you working out, because I know some people do that. We caught you riding a bike to work, which I know some people do that as well. And I just really appreciate every one of you listening in. And please don't forget to pay this forward and share it with your realtors and your lender friends and your entrepreneur friends as well, because everyone's learning on this podcast every single week. So thank you again, and we'll catch you next time on Mortgage Lending Mastery.
Thanks for listening to Mortgage Lending Mastery. Be sure to subscribe to hear more sales tips, ideas, strategies, and tactics to help you with your personal and professional growth to multiply your results in record time. And if you like what we're doing, don't forget to give us a rating and review so we can continue to bring you the best content possible. Wanting more beyond the podcast? Join our Mortgage Lending Mastery membership community, where you will find extended interviews with our favorite guests, weekly training, tips, and insider secrets, fireside chats with Jen, free content, meet, share, and collaborate with other members, and so much more. Click the link in the show notes to learn more about this exclusive content. Mortgage Lending Mastery is an Industry Syndicate charter podcast. Industry Syndicate is the first podcast network specifically for the mortgage and real estate industries. Get the Industry Syndicate app in the App Store or Google Play today.